My first question is, what was just the best and worst part of the Launch Accelerator program?
Well, so the best part of being at Launch is, of course, two things. Jason, he's an amazing, amazing human, and he zeroes right in, and he's very, he doesn't suffer fools, and he doesn't waste your time, which I know that as an entrepreneur how valuable that is, and especially as a female entrepreneur. People love to waste our time. They love to humor us, men especially, sadly, and men in particular. The number of times I've had meetings with people who had no interest in investing with me just because, I'm a woman and I look decent, right? I could fill a barn full of that shit, which is annoying. So I really appreciate about Jason. And I also really, the platform was very focused on growth and fundraising, right? So I've been to a lot of accelerators. I've loved some of them and not loved others. But what I again, back to wasting time, I don't generally need marketing help. That's not what I suffer from, where a lot of programming can be focused around that. And I also have a team who came from this world before me, and so I'm lucky. I have some big brothers who know some really valuable information. So I didn't need the same. Believe me, we've got plenty of our own problems, Angela. But I didn't need that kind of distraction or the kind of programming, as they call it. So the greatest thing about the Launch Accelerator is that it's 100% focused on your pitch and getting you those meetings, right? So just for folks listening, how it works is this is pre-COVID, right? So now it's a little bit different, but you stand on stage live to approximately 10 VCs who've been cherry picked to fit your general thesis, more or less, and everyone else in the room. So should be a really good fit for you. 8 out of 10 of them, and you pitch them each week, right? So you're going to meet, and it's for 12 to 14 weeks, depending on where you are in the year. You have 3 minutes, so it's very, very tight. You get questions afterwards. Everything is rapid fire, and then anyone who asks you a question, or that you like, or that votes for you, so they vote 1, 2, 3, then you go up to them afterwards and ask them for a meeting, and you don't say any more. This is the thing you have to learn, right? It's get our number is the tactic, right, that they tell us all, meaning like don't take her on a date in that moment, just get the number. So it's an interesting thing to learn, right? You just walk up to someone, hey, thanks for voting me, I'd love to talk more over coffee, and then you go and get your meeting, right? So that was a gold mine, and it's what I needed at the time. I won the final demo day, which was the one to win, because then you can brag about that. And then, of course, the other great thing was I was in the top 3 of the class. So Jason started a gift that time, which was the top 3 could be on This Week in Startups. Huge braggable there. So, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. So I throw Jason's name around like a dirty prom dress. He's awesome, right? He's on my team.
What about the worst?
The worst was honestly flying there every day. Every week. So I flew from New York City to San Francisco once a week, every week, until I couldn't take it anymore. So the last 5 weeks, I basically just moved to San Francisco because I'm old, and it was grueling. And it's not just flying on a plane one day, being there for one day, 3 hours difference, and then flying back. But for me, I have a partial permanent disability, and I can't type with my hands at all. So those 6 to 10 hours on a plane are lost work time for me. I can't do anything. Yeah. So as a CEO, it just wiped my life out. What I did though is I decided a really wonderful thing happened. I made time for people, which is normally I don't, frankly. So I was going to be sitting next to somebody for 6 hours. Who are you? And the universe gifted me with some incredible people. I met this woman, and she studies the neuroscience of wellness. How cool is that? And she was on her way to work with some executives at Oracle. And so I basically, she coached me for free for like a plane ride. But one of the things I asked her was, well, what's the thing that you tell everybody that's like the thing they love the most? What's your little nugget? And she said it was this. So she has people stand in a circle, and she says to stand up tall and imagine, pull your head up, like be straight and tall. And you can do this in your chair and think to yourself, this is my dignity. right? And then pull back on your heels a little bit, pull back in your seat and think, this is my perspective, this is my vision, right? And then pull your shoulders back a little bit and think, this is my strength. So it's dignity, vision, and strength, right? And then out loud say, I'm committed to raising $3.5 million, or I'm committed to being nice to my husband, whatever it is. And you can do that anywhere. You can do it silently. And I think it's nice for my women friends, especially because I feel like dignity is something we forget, you know, and strength and vision. We forget that, or we compromise these things as a default. We don't even realize it.
Now, this sort of going in a totally different direction. Question, do you remember the app Yo? So basically it was an app that all it did was you opened it up and you could find your different contacts and you could push the button Yo and it would send them a text that said, or a notification that said Yo, exclamation. That's it. The entire functionality of the app was just Yo.
Yo.
And so I'm curious, putting you on the spot, you talked in an interview at one point about selling the greater vision, right? How Lately isn't a marketing tool, but more disrupting the entire marketing industry, or to avoid the word disrupting, sort of turn it on its head. So I'm curious if you can do sort of like a quick brainstorm. How might you have done that for this app Yo? Like, how could you spin what they were doing, and not even necessarily spin, but turn that into like a greater, longer term vision that you could sell to an investor?
That's an interesting question. So for them, I mean, the power of what they're doing is a little bit, I want to say guttural, because I just thought of like caveman, visceral, like,
Yo.
right? Yeah, yo. But it's more than just the actual onomatopoeia of the yo, but it's also instantaneously nudge somebody, right? And that has some sort of a telepathy in there, right? There's so much more just by the nature of what it is. And you have to read into the yo. Is it the yo, or like yo ding-a-ling? Like what kind of yo is it? So I think what's interesting to me is like, it's more than one product, right? You can't sell someone just one product. It has to be the vision of what else is coming. What's the hug, right? What is that looking like? Or now when you can't see my face most of the time because I'm wearing a mask, what's smile? What's that app? You know, so I think that's kind of interesting. It's just like taking one human communication and being able to strip it down in any way, in any language, by the way, like, right? I mean, hug goes everywhere.
Well done. That's impressive. I like that.
I'm also full of shit, Angela. I mean, too. So
Well, what percentage is bullshit and what percentage is grand vision? I don't know, but
right.
it works. And then another question. You recently got a shout out from Gary V on LinkedIn for Lately.
Yeah.
Dish your secrets. How did this come about?
I asked because I know him, right? So a couple years ago, Gary posted, or his team, now we know that it was his team, posted on LinkedIn something like, I wish there was an AI tool that would turn my pillar content into 40 social posts, right? And so my team saw that and was like, hey, we do this. And then we engineered our responses. So we called in every favor we knew from every friend and marketer and said, boost my comment on Gary's thread here, so that it got a lot of noise. And then we found out who his team was and we pitched them for a demo. And we met Jim Thompson at the time, who was working with Gary's team, Gary V. And we got a pilot with Jim. And as the pilot was underway, I went to 4Ds, one of his classes, on purpose, right? So that's the day you go all day to VaynerMedia, and you meet with his team and you learn about marketing stuff, which, I mean, I didn't really need to know that because I was there for a different purpose. And then Gary comes in, he spends about an hour with the room, and he's very purposeful and very attentive, which is impressive for anyone in that position, even in a room full of people, to make you feel undeniably that he is listening to you and only you, even for 10 minutes, is a very powerful skill. And so I witnessed that. And I met Gary before, which he remembered at South by Southwest, like a decade ago or something. So then this was all recorded and shared later, which was amazing. So he had asked, what do you do? He's asking you to introduce yourself. And I was like, I said, what we did and yada yada. He's like, oh, marketing automation. Yeah, I mean, we would never use that. And I was like, well, actually, your team is using it right now. And he was like, oh, really? And so then he did something very powerful, which he called in the person who was using it and had them talk about their experience with lately. And they said all really nice things. Now, of course, I spent the day meeting all those people. Every pee break I took, went out into the office and were like, hey, where's Raga? And hey, where's May? I wanted, because I'm working it. And so then Gary left that in the podcast. And one of my customers / friends sent the tape to me, and he cut out all the scenes where Gary was talking to me. So of the hour, there were 18 minutes were spent with me, which is like so nice. And really cool. So from there, we had a pilot with them. They became paying customer. But Gary didn't really know who we were. I mean, he wasn't paying attention. He's not using lately. His team was using it. And even then it was a bit of a struggle because Gary doesn't necessarily need lately. He has a team, he's an army to do that. Like I made it so that you can be Gary V for like a fraction of the cost and without the army, But then I released a feature and the feature was the video clips feature, right? So you add in a podcast like this, push a button, we transcribe the text, we automatically test every social post you've ever published before. We look for the highest engaging posts. We build a writing model based on what we know your audience is going to respond to when we apply it to this video. And then we cut your video into 100 snippets of all the smartest, coolest things that you said that we know your audience is going to like. And we have the matching video to go with it, right? So Jim took that when we showed it to him and made a demo Twitter account and walked up to Gary and showed him his phone. And Gary said, who's that? I want to meet her right away. And we did. He's been very kind to us and we're working on a channel partnership. And I've asked 2 favors and that was one of the favors.
Going back to the very beginning of that, when your team was monitoring, I assume sort of influencers in the space or people and comments to respond to, like what Gary's original LinkedIn post, was that manual? Was there any way, did you have screening tools like alerts up, or how did you stumble upon that post?
Yeah, manual. I mean, we 100% believe in organic and the power of human beings, and that automation and humans have to work together for it to work, right? You don't want to just do it all. And so I have Katie, actually CADI, Katie. She is my social sales whiz, you might say. And so she keeps an eye on conversations. And then this is how we win, right? So we use Lately to market Lately. Everything I just told you, like we'll take this, I'm going to ask you for the file for this, and hopefully you'll give it to me and we'll cut it up. Thank you in advance. And then we'll schedule it. So if I get 40 posts from this, I'll schedule, 1 or 2 a week for the next 40 weeks because it's still interesting then, right? And I'm doing it to drive traffic back to you, not to me. I'm looking for reshares and acknowledgement and social proof, right? And so our AI is so good at learning what the customers want to hear that we have a 98% conversion rate. We don't do any paid ads, no cold calls and no emails. Sorry for the plug, but this is important. I was doing this by hand beforehand because I believe in the power of the human, right? So much. And the reason I know this, by the way, Angela, is from my radio career, right? So like I learned the power of the microphone is very powerful, but if the onus is on me to make it feel like you have a voice, that it's a 2-way street. You're part of this conversation. You trust me to take you on a journey. And when you do that, you're not no longer a listener, you're a fan. You're no longer a customer, you're an evangelist. And when you're a small company, that evangelist dollar, whatever time I spent with that evangelist is going to get me exponential more quantity and quality in marketing effort than any paid ad would, right? You know that.
It's so in line with the type of content that I and we regularly produce. And it's also kind of at the core of my own business, right? Which is the value of social proof and the value of repurposing content. Like we started with is customer story videos. And instead of doing a case study and an interview by phone and then turning that into a single case study, pressing publish and ignoring it and like crickets because no one cares to read your PDF case study, we will do a single interview and then we can repurpose that into a number of different pieces, right? We get 3 different videos for social or 10 different videos for social. We can get social graphics, we can get audiograms, we can get a gift, plug into email, we can get text clips. things like that. So it's sort of similar philosophy, I think, and at some point may well be able to use your tool. But similar philosophy around repurposing and the value of social proof and telling stories.
And like to that end, it's like, I mean, we're seeing this happen in a lot of places, right? Like the food industry is a good one, right? So in the 60s and 70s, I guess it was like, hey, canned food was kind of a big deal, and or right, a French fries. But then it's been switching, right, farm to table and all that. So it turned around, and there became this new value on the hard way. The hard way is the better way. Oh my God, right? For so many reasons. And it's the same way with marketing. It's just having this moment where, we're humans, so we like to take everything all the way to the end till we kill it. So we killed it. Now we're coming back, right?
What forms of content, like, is there a pie chart of the types of content that are created on your platform, and is that changing, like video versus text only?
So it started with text, and then it morphed into both audio and video. But even the audio and video are text based, right? Because we transcribe this video, and then we're studying the text for the word model, right? So because writing, I believe, is the basis of all marketing. Someone has to write the idea down with words initially, however it translates in the end, right? So if that's the baseline, let's start there. Let's make sure that the words you're putting out, however they are, spoken, written, there's words have to be involved. It's a huge pain point. People are bad at writing. Marketers are bad at writing. I was a fiction writing major, so I'm not bad at writing. But it's this weird thing that people skip over. And I know you know this too. This is why marketing, people think it's this black box of mystery. What happens with the marketing team? They just go over in the corner with some crayons and shit happens, but that's not what happens, right? And by the way, Angela, so like, because I'm such a nerd about this, I love the way words sound, right? I'm an audiophile, so I love that. And when you read words on a page, you hear them in your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where the voice, the persona, the brand, it all originates in our ability to write well.
Do you get stats on, or do you see what format people then translate those words into, and to what, in what percentages, or like what commonalities there are?
No, it's the video, right? Since I released the video component, we've increased sales 161% in 9 months. When we're talking about right? So that was so easy for you to explain what they did. To explain what I do, it's impossible. It takes forever. I can't even do it. I'm awful. Bane of my existence, right? But I can show you Gary Vee's Twitter page and say that's 100% fueled by my content, and it gets them a 12,000% increase in engagement. That's all I have to do now.
What is the most embarrassing social media post that you've made in the last 5 years?
I can tell you the most embarrassing thing I've done, which is like last week. I literally had an interview with somebody live on LinkedIn for a half an hour. His name was Paul, and I called him Dan the whole time.
He didn't correct you?
No. And like then afterwards I posted on it about LinkedIn. I was like, because I had to call it out because I was so embarrassed. And I was like, and I blushed a little bit, but like
By Dan, I met Paul.
And I felt so bad because he was so kind and generous. And anyways, but so that, I think that, you can always just delete it, right? So I know that I deleted stuff on Facebook from a long, long time ago. But that was before I was really leading this company and knew how valuable my own warts and all are. And now I use them, because it's relatable.
I also read an interview where you were talking about, or kind of emphasizing authenticity, which resonates with me a lot. What do you say to people that say that, swearing in a business context, whether it be social media and meetings on a podcast, makes you sound unprofessional?
Fuck them. Hey, it's working. Yeah. I grew my company 161% in the last 9 months, and I swear. I don't swear through every meeting. Like, I'm careful before I do. And I test people out. I'm not a complete idiot. One thing I have found is that when you do swear, most of the time, and there's only been one or two instances where this hasn't worked out for me, but most of the time, you give everybody else permission to just be
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of a relief that everyone starts to feel like, oh, okay, we can be our real selves and not like this picture perfect faux work self.
Yeah, like, cause that's not me. I mean, I try. So I bought, God bless Athleta. They have my number, and I buy a lot of clothes from them. And they've got these shirts now that look like business shirts, button-down collars. You can crush these things and put it in a suitcase, which I'm not doing right now. But like, I bought these because I'm having more meetings on Zoom, and like my thing for a long time was just like yoga pants central, but now everybody's doing that, and I'm like, nah, and now I look like a cliche. Fuck. So I got two of these shirts, and I've been wearing them thanks to Jason Calacanis, by the way, who did in a smart way remind me that when I'm on stage, I need to have a little bit of poise, and you can't be too punk rock, because if you're too punk rock, you freak people out. You can be a little bit of punk rock that's cool, right? And I have to remind myself, and by the way, of course, when he first told me that, I was like, hey, fuck you. But then I was like, there's something in that. And I changed my ways, and it worked, because people take you more seriously, right? So like I use these shirts now, and I put them on when I'm having an investor meeting, because I need them to envision me as a CEO, right? And like sometimes the hoodie is cool. It's just about knowing the audience. That's the question. Like, know your audience and who they are. I don't swear in our social generally. Once in a great while, I will, because I like to reserve it for the occasional interview.
In the context of sales calls and sales meetings, Gong puts out some really interesting stats and information about
What do
this.
they say?
Overall, that it's good, but that in the instances where the prospect does it first, it results in a market increase in the likelihood of close, and then indifferent in the instances where the sales rep is doing it first.
Of course, I've instructed my team to never do it. Right?
As I say, not as I do.
Yeah, exactly.
The nature of your business gives you a lot of insights into marketing content and what's working. What is a big mistake you see a lot of people doing with video content, specifically on social media?
The biggest mistake is not acknowledging the rest of the room, right? So there's a chat generally. If you're not having a chat, you're missing out. And we also seed our chat, right? So this is another big mistake that people make. If you build it, they don't come, period, right? You have to lure people in, and you have to make them feel comfortable. So when I'm doing a live anything like I am in 20 minutes, my entire team is assigned to join, and they get in the chat, and we all do things like hello from Stone Ridge, New York, hello from Washington, DC. And then I specifically will call people out like, oh, what's up, Angela? Hey, Jim, great to see you. All the stuff that South by Southwest 101, when Twitter first came out, this was every stage did this, and it worked so well, and then people forgot about it. Gary does this brilliantly, right? And it's so inclusive. It's exclusive, right? So if you happen to watch the video later on YouTube, you're not there, you didn't get the chat, so like you're out. But I think that's cool to have a little bit of that. So I think it's really important to invite those people in the conversation as best you can. You can ask them questions and talk to them. It's hard to do. It took me a little while to figure out as well. And sometimes it can be very distracting, because you do have to like think about the camera or whatever. But I think those are two big ones.
Is there a version of that for non-live posts, but like when we post clips from this interview on LinkedIn, for example?
Yeah. So there are, and one of my teammates, Chris, is really super good at it. So one thing you can do is tag people in a non-obnoxious way, because tagging can be very obnoxious, who you think should be part of the conversation, but in a cool one. So like, hey, at Chris Bro, totally high five doing this interview with Angela. Or like, hey, at Brian Kramer, high five to H2H. That's his hashtag or something like that. So there's ways to kind of pull people in. Also, just thanking the host every time is super important, that you publish something. So, but you don't want to spam them, right? So if I'm going to give you 40 clips of this, there's a reason I'm publishing them once a week out for 40 weeks. Number one, not to spam my audience, but number two, I want you to reshare this content every time. So I get exponential love, duh. But if I tag you every time, you're going to be like, Kate, I mean, I already reshared your stuff. You're annoying me. But next week, you're going to forget and do it again.
In terms of the non-obnoxious tagging, like I've seen people who will make a LinkedIn post, and then there's 40 names tagged in the actual post.
It's annoying.
Don't do it.
No, because like, first of all, it just screams, sorry, friends who've done this. First of all, it screams lazy, right? So you're not taking the time to like tell me something poignant that I need to know. Like, why do I need to spend 10 minutes trying to figure out why the hell you tagged me? That's a little annoying to me, you know? And number two, it's also it forces me to have to like it when I might not or something. So I find that annoying also. And then I get everybody's comments. I'm going to get tagged the whole time, right? Every so-and-so commented on the comment and the comment of you and blah, 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 you know, like I get it. Like, you know, once in a while, if you write an article and you interview 10 people, okay, tag all those 10 people. Yeah, awesome. You know, with my team, for example, so the thing I'm doing at 2 p.m. today is a writing class. We do a live writing class, and I publish about it once or twice on LinkedIn. I mean, somebody did it for me today. And then my team is asked to go tag some customer they've been working with or working towards in those posts. They do it very naturally. Be like, hey, Jim Bob, this is that class I was talking about. Hope you can make it today. If not, I'll send you the replay. So they just make it like, not like, the lamest thing is when someone tags you and is like, what do you think, Kate Bradley Chernis? And I'm like, well,
yeah,
I think I don't have time for this, or I think this is silly. Why did you tag me? Or like, it's hard because everybody's trying to participate and play, and that's awesome. I think the thing this back to time wasting, they forget that like the time that it takes me to personally comment on stuff is a lot. I don't enjoy it. I hate it. I do it for work. There's only one reason, and it's lead gen. That is it, right? I want to win this game really badly. I like people and I've made some great friends, and it's not about that, but like inherently, I have 50 houses on fire. You know this, Angela, better than anybody. And suddenly my attention is forced here on this total fucking waste of time.
And I mean, I see some parallels to in-person socialization too, right? It's like you wouldn't go at a party and be like, hey, what do you think of my brochure? Here's my brochure. Here's my brochure. Like,
yeah,
to a million people, that just would be super awkward. So there's sort of the etiquette translates, I think.
Yeah, great analogy. Yeah, it's very hard. Like we all make those mistakes too. It's not like, and so I don't mean to harsh on people because it's kind of like, yeah, whatever, you're human. Also, it's COVID and everybody's fucking up all the time. So you just have to be like wide berth of forgiveness.
Quick yes or no question. Engagement groups, yay or nay?
I mean, we do it. It's a job requirement. So yay.
Yep.
And I think we do it very specifically for our own content, but we do it for our customers. We want to help them, and they love it. They know that we're part of your team, and everybody needs help, and you can only be a loud voice if there's a bunch of voices with you.
Really smart.